My friend paid two mortgages on the same property. Yes, you heard me right. One property, two mortgages. How, you may ask? Well, you might be doing the same thing. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Tato and I just have a few of life's nuggets that I would like to share with you. As you saw in the preview of this video, today I want to talk about something that happened to my friend, but this video is not about my friend or their situation. What we are doing here is we are using his experience as almost like a case study to get this conversation going. Now, as a disclaimer, I have to put it out there. I know that not everybody can buy property. Not everybody can be a homeowner because not everybody can afford to be a homeowner. Further, I also acknowledge and understand that not everybody wants to be a homeowner. That's fine. This video is for those people out there who can be a homeowner, who can afford to be a homeowner, but are on the fence. So maybe you got a pre-approval and you have been looking around, but you are not sure if to go and sign that deal. You have been thinking about it, but you are weighing the pros and cons and you are leaning somewhere in the middle and you just need something else to get you to make that final decision. This video is for those people. Okay, so let's go back to my friend's situation. My friend, like I said, has paid two mortgages on the same property, or rather he is on his second mortgage on the same property. How, you may ask? Well, my friend started renting at a certain property 19 or 20 years ago, and he's been there the whole time. But this year, the owners decided to sell the property, and him having been at this property for so long, they obviously gave him the first offer, and he decided, you know what, instead of having to move, I can afford it, I'm going to just buy this property. So he now has a mortgage on this property, when in actual fact he paid the whole mortgage for that property. Now we can nitpick and say, oh, he shouldn't have done this, he shouldn't have done that. But most of us are him, in the sense that most of us have been renting for a very long time. So we are essentially paying other people's mortgages. Whether you were staying in the one property or you moved, the amount that you have spent accumulates, and at the end of 20 or 30 years is the equivalent of a mortgage. Let's talk about it. Some of the things you believe now and some of the things you believed in the past, you will not believe or continue to believe in the past. Let me give you an example. The friend I'm talking about never used to believe in property ownership. So even though he could have bought property, he just didn't believe in property ownership. He believed in investing and so forth, right? That's all good and well. There are many ways to build wealth. But what I want you to ask yourself is, depending on where you are in life, if you are 35, approaching 40 or over 40, what happens on the other side? What happens when you reach retirement? If you don't have a property, and I'm solely talking to those people who don't have a property. If you don't have a property, where are you going to be when you get to retirement age and you are getting a pension? Will you be able to afford to continue to rent? That's the first question I want to ask. If you won't be able to afford to rent, will you be able to go back to your parents' house? Is there a house to go back to, a place called home you can go back to? But further, do you want to do that? Having lived on your own, having created this independence, do you want to go back and live with your parents in your old age I mean, they may not be alive, but do you want to go back to what you call home to be the place where you retire? That's something you need to ask yourself. I always say, or rather, I have learned that hindsight can be such a painful teacher. Yes, sometimes you have to go through something to truly learn from it, but sometimes you don't. Sometimes you can learn from other people's experiences, which is why I said I want this video to be for those people who do want to go into property ownership, those people who can afford it, but they have certain things, certain reservations keeping them from doing that. I want you to remember and know that some of the decisions that you are making now are going to have detrimental consequences for your future. And as you get older, the leeway you have with the decisions that you make becomes very tight and small. Now, let's talk about why people can be on the fence. Most of the times, it's because being a property owner comes with a lot of expenses. For example, when you are renting, you'll find that the very same property that you are in, it's cheaper to rent it than to buy it. What do I mean by that? I know for a fact that if I was to rent out this property that I own, that the rental I will get will be cheaper than my actual mortgage. But something that people miss or tend to not really take too much into consideration is the fact that that is for a limited amount of time. Initially, the rental will be cheaper than if you bought that property, but over time, the mortgage will be cheaper than the rental. Why? Because rent increases every single year. Yes, mortgages can increase when interest rates increase, but on average, that's not the case. But further, property values go up. In most cases, property values go up. So that means that as a property owner, you get equity in the house. The value of the house goes up. That means that your net worth goes up with the property. Yet you may still be paying the same mortgage. So over time, the mortgage, people who've been in the same property for a very long time, towards the end of the ownership, and the end is actually a far stretch, somewhere in the middle there, your rental starts to be higher than the mortgage that you're paying towards that property. I also want to go a bit deeper with regards to the equity on the property. When you build equity and therefore your net worth increases, you can go and borrow against your property. It allows you or gives you access to money that is at a lower interest rate and that you can do other things with. For example, when I bought my property, it was 1,750,000. A few weeks ago, I had a leak on my roof. So I called my insurer because I wanted to see if they would cover it. So the bank decided to do a home valuation because it's been so long. It's been 4 years. And I was pleasantly surprised that my property has gone up in value by 400,000. That is 400,000 that I didn't save. If I had to save in 4 years, I wouldn't have reached 400,000. Why? Because I don't have the leg room in my finances to save that much. But by virtue of biting the bullet, taking the leap of faith, and moving from being a tenant to now being a property owner, I have managed to get this equity in the property such that the bank was asking me, okay, do you want extra funds? Is there something that you want to do? Do you want to buy a car? Do you want to buy a second property? You can borrow against this 400,000. It's your asset that you have. So yes, when you want to buy the property, there are all those things that you think about. There are those initial costs. There are also the costs of actually buying the property and all the things that break, the maintenance costs. Yeah, those things are there. But my encouragement to you is that if you sacrifice, it can be worth it. And I use the word can be because some people will come with all the other scenarios as to why it's not worth it. Guys, everything, whether it's the stock market, whether it's property ownership, any single thing in life comes with a risk. But you have to, at the end of the day, sit down, evaluate your life and say, is this a risk I'm willing to take? For me, I truly believe in property ownership. The only thing I can even say to myself is that I think I waited a bit too long. I got my first property at 35. I think I waited too long. Why? Because I wanted to have a certain caliber of a house. I wanted it to look a certain way. But you know what? Even if you get that first property, just so you get to acclimatize to being a property owner and what comes with it, the responsibilities that come with it. Even if that's not your dream home, buy it, get the experience, and you get to even make contacts with contractors, plumbers, electricians, and so forth. And once you then get to that dream house, that bigger house, you have already gotten experience, you have knowledge that you can use in that bigger house that comes with bigger responsibility. So wherever you are on the journey, I hope this encourages you. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope it was of some value to you. Let's have a conversation about it. You don't have to agree with me, and you might have some other points that I've missed out. Let's start a conversation in the comment section. What do you think? Why don't you want to be a property owner even though you can afford it? Why, if you can afford it and are on the fence, what is it that's holding you back? What are the questions that you have? What are some of the reservations that you have? Let's open this conversation, because in you sharing your story, in you sharing what you've learned, somebody else might benefit. I'm sharing what I believe. It need not be your truth or how you should live your life. But in sharing what our thoughts, our knowledge, we all get to grow in the long run. So let's do that in the comment section. Thank you for being here. I hope I'll see you on the next video. Until then, keep well.